Hello everyone. My name is Jessie Rogers and I'm reporting live from the expo floor at GSummit 2013 in San Francisco. Joining me right now is Schell, the CEO of Schell Games and professor at Carnegie Mellon's Entertainment Technology Center. Welcome, Jessie.
Hey.
Thank you for joining me. You got a rousing response this morning to your presentation. No surprises there. But you and many of our speakers this morning really focused on motivation and proper understanding of what motivation is and how to take advantage of it and create meaningful experiences. Some of the things that you've said today and in the past were that some of the predictable mechanics that we associate with gamification, badges, leaderboards, etc., can actually come back and have undesirable effects, for instance, when they're taken away or used improperly as motivators. Can you comment on that?
Oh yeah, I mean, it's the human motivation is very complex, and things that work for some people don't work for others, and in fact can repel others. So leaderboards are a great example. Some people are really drawn to leaderboards, and other people are really repelled by leaderboards. Leaderboards work great for people who are at the top of the leaderboard. People who are persistently at the bottom, who are often the people you care about motivating the most, you may actually demotivate them with a system like that. So anytime you're trying to develop systems of motivation, you have to look very carefully at what do we care about the most? What are we really trying to do? And how do we know whether we're doing what we wanted to do?
Absolutely. So Jessie, you run a very large game development studio. You are also a professor. How do you go about enterprise motivation within your own organizations?
So a lot of it has to do with the sorts of things you work on. What I find motivates creative people is they want to work with other creative people, and they want to work on things they can be really proud of. You know, the mission statement at our company is our mission is to develop, our mission is to work on things that we're proud of with people we like, right? And that's I think what really motivates people. And further, a lot of it comes down to sort of one-on-one mentoring, you know, so that people know that like you care about where they're trying to go and what's important to them, so they can kind of do the best they can. Creative jobs tend to be very difficult to quantify. You know, I think it was Peter Drucker who said that, you know, management by, you know, quantification works great if you can quantify the job, but 90% of jobs can't really be well quantified.
Right,
So.
Absolutely. So you've identified 5 key sort of pillars of good motivational design. Can you outline those for me?
Oh, so yeah, so there, right in the talk, I talked about 5 things that if you're creating any kind of motivational system, 5 things you want to be very aware of. First, you want to make sure that the thing you're creating is appealing, and that's appealing meaning that people look at it and they're like, hey, I want to do that, right? So that from the outside it looks interesting. Secondly, you want to make it engaging. You want to figure out what is it going to take to make people want to do it and want to keep doing it, and really, while they're doing it, that they're really enjoying what they're doing. A third one is you have to work very hard to make it effortless. You want to make these systems as easy as possible. If people have to do an extra step, you know, fill out an extra form or load an extra app every time they do something, it's probably not going to happen. But if you can weave it into an existing process so that it's effortless, or maybe better than effortless, that this saves me work, then that helps a lot.
You mentioned seeing critical fall off even with just adding 1 extra page between start and completion of a task. So.
Oh, sure, definitely. You know, and people who do UI design, they focus on this. You know, what are the number of clicks to get things complete? And you want to add 1 or 2 extra clicks. A lot of times it really blows it.
Right.
After that, you want to make sure things are uncheatable, and cheatability is something people don't think about enough, because a lot of systems are easily cheatable. So you talk about people doing that, they wear like some kind of step counter, right? And we all know those can be cheated. You can sit there and watch TV and just sort of shake it, and it thinks those are steps, right? Or a friend of mine, he tied his to the dog's tail, right? And he's getting all kinds of steps. Now, people might not actually do that, but when you know it can be done, it makes you feel like a little bit of a chump when you're like killing yourself in order to get those extra steps, because you're imagining the people who are cheating and how now you feel like a loser. So making systems that can't be cheated really goes a long way.
Right.
And and the last one is making things that aren't embarrassing. So disembarrassmentation, as we sometimes say. Because people are super easily embarrassed. They can be embarrassed by the smallest things. Particularly anything involving gameplay in the workplace, like that can be really, really embarrassing. Even something simple like, hey, we got a prize for you. It's a $20 off coupon at your favorite restaurant. That sounds great. What could possibly be wrong with that? Until you get to the restaurant. And then you have that nervous moment where you're like, is this coupon really good here? And do I give it to the waitress when I first get here or later? And like, geez, I'm on a date. It's embarrassing to use a coupon on a date. And then what if, like, are they going to feel like I'm cheating because this isn't the right coupon? So you have this whole situation of being embarrassed about something that should be just a nice, easy reward. So taking embarrassment away is tricky.
Or at its lightest kind of impact, at least being self-conscious.
Yeah.
So so I'm really interested in the cheatability component because it's not one that I think we talk about in terms of everyday behaviors. We talk about it with games all the time, of course. Yeah. So what do you think businesses that are looking at creating these systems, and how do they even put themselves in a mindset of thinking of how someone's going to cheat the system?
Well, you just have to start thinking like a cheater, right? You just have to think about, what if somebody wanted to cheat, if I wanted to cheat, how would I do it? And a lot of things can be, are not that hard to cheat at. It's a thing that game designers have to think about all the time, because if we make a game that's cheatable, particularly a network game, the whole thing falls apart because advancing in the game no longer has any value because if people are cheating. So it's just something it's a kind of a security mindset almost. Like how would somebody break into this building if they were going to do it? You have to learn to start thinking that way. That's
a great analogy. And you also touched in your talk today about how hard it is to build games. And I think being inside the game developer community, everybody gets that. But when you get outside, what are some of the conversations that you have with people who really don't understand how complex it is?
Yeah, I guess most people don't think about it. They see some successful games and they say, well, those look pretty simple, right? But what they don't look at are like, look at the million games that weren't successful behind that. Right? I mean, like in the iOS store, there are 300 new games coming into the system every day, and most of them are not successful. And a lot of the reason for that is that we just don't understand human motivation that well. Right. If we did, we'd have a much higher hit rate with the games we made. Right. But we're all kind of feeling around in the dark and trying our best to figure it out. And this is a counterintuitive notion for most people. People think, oh, I understand what people want. I understand human motivation. But we don't. We're bad at predicting, like, ourselves, what we ourselves are going to do, and we're bad at predicting even what we like. Right.
Well, it's interesting too because there's a lot of talk about data and what can be done with data and all the data that we're getting from these gamified systems. But there's a lot of conversation too, especially from creatives who say data can really quash creativity and innovation and create a fear factor. Do you run into that in the games industry too?
Oh, sure. No, it happens all the time. You'll have marketing run in and say, people are buying blue items. We should make everything blue. And really? Is that really right? Are they buying blue items just because those blue items were cool, or because blue is so different? And if we made everything blue, would that really work? So the problem often is a little bit of data combined with like bad assumptions gets you in all kinds of trouble. Right. And so the key is to find ways to use data with proven hypotheses and to do it like real science, and then combine that with good design intelligence. Finding a company that can put all those together, it's tough.
Absolutely.
It's tough.
Well, Jesse, there was an uproar of laughter when you made a comment about the difference between understanding psychology and understanding motivation. And I think you drove home a really wonderful point, which is psychology really doesn't cover motivation, and this is a really specialized area. So how does somebody go about educating themselves about this?
Right, I mean, so not to say that psychologists haven't studied motivation. They do have some models for motivation, but it isn't where most of the research is, and the research that's there often ends up being kind of dry and not always very useful, because the whole area of human pleasure and what people enjoy is incredibly broad. Right. It's one thing to talk about what motivates someone to work an extra hour at their job, and it's very different when you talk about what motivates somebody to listen to their favorite song again, right? Like it's motivation in both cases, but like radically different things are happening in the mind. And so the part where everything is sort of new is like trying to find ways to synchronize these many kinds of motivation that we have and get them to kind of work together in concert. That's the thing the psychologists generally don't have a lot of handle on, because they tend to zoom in on the micro of one particular thing, whereas entertainers have what they like to do is use this sort of symphony of different motivations to get you to do things. So it's sort of top-down and bottom-up approaches, really.
Jesse, always fascinating to hear you speak. Thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate you making time.
Sure thing.
And thanks for tuning in here at GSummit 2013 in San Francisco. Thank you so much.
All right, great.
Really fascinating. I am also a big proponent of your idea that we need to rename gamification, and actually enjoyed that very much at the end.